Good morning and welcome to your Farm and Home Show. I'm Christy Shive, and this morning we're visiting with Jeannie Badgett. She's a Senior Extension Associate for Clothing, Textiles, and Household Equipment. Good morning, Jeannie.
Good morning, Christy. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being with us today. Now, Jeannie, we have all heard that the higher the thread count, the more luxurious our sheets will feel. But first, can you talk to us about what thread count is?
Thread count is basically when you look at a piece of fabric, you take one square inch of fabric. It's the number of yarns or threads that are going in the up and down direction and the side to side direction within 1 inch. But before we really get into thread count and how it impacts how sheets feel, I want to talk to you a little bit about the way the fabric is constructed, starting looking at fibers and how the fibers are turned into yarns and then into fabric.
Okay, so where do we get started when making sheets?
Well, sheets are made of fabric, and any kind of fabric starts with fibers. So those are the basic building blocks of any kind of fabric. Fibers, if you think about a cotton ball, you pull a cotton ball apart. Those are the little tiny pieces of hair-like structures. And there are different kinds of fibers. There are natural fibers such as cotton or man-made fibers such as polyester. They have different lengths that they come in. And fibers have different properties, and those properties will impact the feel or function of anything that they make.
So sheets can be made from different types of fibers.
Yes. So most of them are made from cotton, and those fibers are spun or twisted to make yarns. And it's those yarns that are then made into a fabric. There are different types of fibers, as we were saying, cotton, polyester, even rayon, which is bamboo. You may have heard of microfiber sheets. So you probably want to know what are microfibers and sheets made with microfibers. Microfibers are just very, very tiny fibers, usually polyester or nylon. Microfiber isn't a fiber type, it's just the size of a fiber.
So Jeannie, is this why all sheets feel differently?
Pretty much, because those yarns, there's different sizes and fineness depending on the fibers that are used to make the yarns and how tightly they're spun. And then those yarns are constructed in different ways. They can be woven to make the fabric or knit together to make the fabric. A knit fabric feels like a t-shirt, it's stretchy, but most sheets are woven. And even the weave type, there are different ways to weave the yarns together, is depending on how big the yarns are, how fine they are, and how many yarns are woven together within that each square inch. That's where the thread count comes into play.
So Jeannie, does a higher thread count mean our sheets are going to feel nicer?
Well, not necessarily. It really is a personal preference. We have to think about the way the sheets are constructed. If they're woven sheets, there are different weave types, and those weave types will impact the way the sheets feel. For example, folks that like a crisp sheet, a crisp, cool sheet, may prefer a percale weave, just a plain weave, and usually the yarns are bigger, so it's not going to have as high of a thread count. People that like silky or smooth sheets might prefer a sheet that's woven with a sateen weave, and that just creates a sheet that feels silkier. So it really depends on the weave type and, again, the size of the yarns, and that will impact the thread count, because finer yarns, you can fit more of those in that square inch. And literally, when we talk about thread count, we have an apparatus called a linen tester, and we count the number of yarns in a square inch. You'll have manufacturers that will say they have sheets with 1,000 thread count. So that would be about 500 yarns going in this direction and 500 in that direction. And that's pretty impossible. Those yarns would have to be super, super fine. But basically what they do is they'll take fabric where the yarns are ply yarns. So they're actually, one yarn is made of smaller threads that are twisted together. And they will count each single ply and make that the thread count. And that's why it becomes something like 1,000. But most sheets normally will be between 250 to 400, 500. And so within that range, even 300 thread count will be pretty comfortable. But again, it is a personal preference.
Thanks for joining us today on the Farm and Home Show, and we'll see you next time.